My name is Jim Kelly. I'd like to introduce you to the Center for Power-Filled Living. We're a nonprofit group and we are Christ-based. What we've tried to do is provide the cutting edge of Christ-centered living. We want to be able to help anyone in any kind of situation be all that they can be in Christ. Now our focus is multivariate. We go through Bible studies, we go through counseling, we go through a very unusual thing that's called neurofeedback. It's becoming more and more prevalent in the treatment facilities now, but neurofeedback has a long history. A long history goes all the way back to the 1950s, when Joe Camilla first started introducing biofeedback into the brain. He was training alpha activity in specific brain areas, and he was successful in doing this. And it was documented, and accolades were given to him for a long time. Meantime, there was other facilities trying biofeedback on brain areas. One of the areas is at UCLA. UCLA had a researcher named Barry Sturman. Barry Sturman was very interested in how EEG was working with sleep, and he did a bunch of sleep studies. And by accident, he discovered a particular frequency that's called sensory motor rhythm. That occurs at the center part of our head over our sensory motor strip. And it's a rhythm that our brain checks with our body on a regular basis. Now, while he was training this, he was training this specific frequency into laboratory animals, specifically cats. And he was able to train cats to generate this frequency on command. And if you can train a cat, you can train anything. So from Barry Sturman's experience there, what made this a serendipitous type of event was his colleagues were doing some research for the Army and for NASA. They were trying to research a particularly nasty rocket fuel and its effect on neural systems. These fumes and got some very particularly nasty results. Gastrointestinal issues, seizure issues, and once that was documented, he found that he had two distinct groups of cats. One group of cats tended to survive much longer and be much more seizure resistant. And he was confused for a while until he realized that these cats had come from the previous experiment where he was training them to generate a specific frequency at a specific location on their head. Now the significance of this was huge. If he had found by accident some way to impact epilepsy, and he went through primate studies and he went through human trials, and over a period of 10 years he did studies, and he was published in every major neurological journal out there, showing that this neurofeedback approach was actually more effective than the medications. In many cases, it completely removed the seizures. He had a 60% result in seizure reduction. Now, as they examined how these people were performing, they noticed that they were more centered, they seemed to be more intelligent. Once they got a clue there, they decided, well, why wouldn't this work with ADD? And he and other researchers started looking into ADD possibilities, specifically Joel Lubar at the University of Tennessee. And he was very successful as well, being able to train children with ADD to be able to focus and attend and be successful in school. So this is very strong training. And one of the things that in a Christian viewpoint, what we try to do in our Christian life is to learn to have greater self-control. And one of our greatest drawbacks in our walk is these failures. And one thing that was fascinating about this particular area is that we can see how this can impact every part of our existence, because our brain is kind of our interface with our soul. And as our brain is not functioning well, then we tend to have greater problems. And if we can impact our brain's functioning, then we can impact our successful walk with Christ. So my interest was piqued at that point. But let me tell you about another practitioner. Another practitioner was named Elmer Green. Elmer Green has done decades of research on brain activity. He was a researcher from the Menninger's Clinic of Topeka, Kansas. And as he was in the Topeka, Kansas area, they became very interested in how the Eastern disciplines of meditation was able to change their physiology. So they went and examined how these men functioned and wired them from sound and got them EEG readings. And from the investigations that they took back to Kansas, they figured out how to do low frequency manipulation of brain activity. Now, other researchers had found that learning is very much tied to low frequency activity. Speed learning was developed by Tom Benzinski and used the low frequency activities of the EEG. And if we can get these types of things active in our brain, we can change states and change our ability to function, which is another level of self-control. If we can get a change in these levels of self-control, we can change anything about us. Let's look at another man named Eugene Peniston. Eugene Peniston was invited by Elmer Green to come and look at his results, and they hooked him up and got him into that state, and he had an epiphany of his own. When he did this, he went ahead and developed a way to intervene with substance abuse. Gene Peniston was in charge of wards at the Fort Lyons VA in Colorado. He took this information back to Colorado and he adopted this particular protocol that's named after him. And as he started working with people with just using this EEG feedback, he was able to change their success rates dramatically in getting out of post-traumatic stress and of substance abuse. And today, different facilities all around the world use his protocols with great success. Now, what we're looking at is a very powerful tool that can also access our deeper self, our secret self, our subconscious, if you will. We can address who we are, who we think we are. If we have false images of ourselves, we can change those things in our deep self using this technology, and we can be in greater self-control. Now, I've reviewed for you the two types of neurofeedback that we use. One I call restorative, which is to try to change a person's brain activity back to a normalized state. And the second we call deep state training, which is to try to root out the things that bother us down deep in our minds, our hearts. Both of those trainings are vital for our function, isn't it? We want to be able to think clearly, perform well. If anyone has a problem in being able to monitor themselves, think clearly, focus, be able to deal with substance issues, being able to deal with even injury, neural injury issues, being able to restore neural functioning in different areas. This becomes a very vital tool, and this is our introduction to our various other videos. Thank you for watching.